Welcome everybody to this very exciting spring lecture series. Thank you very much for being here tonight. It's very nice to see so many faces. I'm Assistant Professor Nerea Feliz, and tonight I have the pleasure to introduce our guest speaker, Philippe Rahm. Philippe Rahm is a Swiss architect. He's also a principal of his office in Paris, Philippe Rahm Architects. His work, which extends the field of architecture from the physiological to the meteorological, has received a lot of international attention and awards in the context of sustainability. It has been exhibited at numerous venues, including the Maxi, the Guggenheim, the Louisiana Museum, the Center Pompidou, Manifesto 7, and San Francisco's MoMA, among many others. Mr. Rahm was chosen to represent Switzerland at the 8th Architecture Biennale in Venice and was one of the 25 Manifesto architects of Aaron Betsky's 2008 Architecture Venice Biennale. He has taught at the GSD, the AA in London, at Princeton, at the Mendrisio Academy, the ETH, and the Academy of Fine Arts of Copenhagen. And he has lectured widely, including Yale, Cooper Union, UCLA, and the ETH in Zürich, among many others. His work has been broadly published. Some of his monographic books include Physiological Architecture, Distortions, Architecture Meteorologique, and most recently, Constructed Atmospheres. And his body of work looks at how meteorological conditions such as convection, conduction, light, and evaporation can serve as tools for architectural composition and at the same time radically affect our perception of space. The title of his talk tonight is Climatic Constructions, and I hope that after you hear him speak this evening, you will be as big a fan of his work as I am. Please join me in welcoming Philippe Rahm.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to come here. And so I want to introduce my work. First, maybe there is something that is at the beginning, or something that are at the, like the most important topic behind my work is the question of sustainability and global warming. And so this is something that you know. This is like the change of the temperature on the planet. And so we understand that since 19th century, linked to the oil and all the fossil energy burning, it creates CO2 and it produces the green gas effect that block the heat on the planet, and there is no more, it could not go out of the planet, and so it creates this increase of the temperature on the planet, and this is this red curve we could see. And we know today that it's completely linked to human activities. And the responsibility of that on the planet, we could say that the construction, the building construction, the building industry, like the housing and the other building, are at the base of 50% of the green gas effect, with the heating system, air conditioning, hot water production. So it means that the building should be on the forefront to fight global warming, and so it changed a little the way to perceive architecture, to design architecture, because we this is a little some example of the old situation. In blue we see all the energy we need to put inside the house, and in red this is all the energy that we lose when the wall is not well insulated, or when there is only single glass, so we lose a lot. And today, with the new regulation like Passive House in Germany, Minergie in Switzerland, or type of LEED in the US, but this is about the U value, the coefficient of thermal insulation of the wall. We need to reduce it, and so then we could reduce the loss of energy by the wall, by all the ventilation system, by all this the glass with it was 2 layers of glass, and now it's like 3 layers of glass, and so it means we need to do things in order to reduce the green gas effect production and to reduce the global warming. And so this is like for the building. Of course, there is a lot of things happen for the urban design. So it's better to have a more dense city, because if you have a very ecological house, but you need to take the car every morning to go to the school with the children, so the ecology have no really meaning, because you use the car and you produce a lot of green gas by using the car. So it's better to have everything, on the same space. But at the architectural level, this is some simple rule. So it's to have a big thermal insulation, to have a perfect thermal insulation of the building, to control the ventilation, because if it is very warm outside and you need to change the air, so you open the window, so you have big quantity of warm air that come inside, so you have to cool all this big quantity of air. So it's better to change only the small quantity according to the human activity you have inside the building, and of course to use more renewable energy and less fossil energy. So this is like the main idea of sustainability and green building. But as an architect, I think, of course, we have to do that, but we have to think also how it could change the way to design architecture, because of course we have this target to reduce, to become green, but we could also think if it will change the design, the language of architecture. It's a little like when during the modernity, when we first start to build with concrete and steel. At the beginning, it was just to use this type of new material to do all construction. So, for example, in the Opera House in Paris, it was like made in steel, but it was hid behind fake stone, and we have to wait like 30 years, 40 years before Le Corbusier and the Bauhaus accept to use the concrete like a real material and not to hide behind behind a stone wall or some old fashioned way of building. And so this is a little the same idea, is to say that maybe we could change the way to design according to that. And when we look carefully to on that, we see that it's talk about insulation, thermal insulation, about flow, about heat, about ventilation, about energy. And all these things are more invisible parameters. It's less about column, wall, or material. It's more about the air, about the climate, about the invisible parameter of the space. And so it's why we say that maybe today architecture is to build solid, but it's maybe more to build void, to build invisible space. And of course, maybe the original target for architecture is to build climate, because why we need architecture in reality, it's because there is too much sun, so you have to create shadow, or it's too cold and you have to create a hot pocket, or there is too much rain, so you have to create a shelter. So this is the fundamental reason why we need architecture. And so we could say architecture in reality it's to build climate or to build atmosphere, so it's the design of atmosphere. And and then if it is a design of atmosphere, we could start to reintroduce or to introduce the climatic language, climatic knowledge into architecture. And the idea was to say that we have maybe element of climate that could become the new bricks of architecture, like heat, humidity, or air, or light. And maybe it's no more concrete or stone or steel, but it's more some heat and humidity. And then this is like the element of architecture, and the element of composition. Before it was more like symmetry or like addition. For example, you have an addition of room or addition of column, or you have inclusion, so you have one volume into another volume, or you have a symmetry in the plan. So it was more like a geometrical or mathematical or geometrical composition. And maybe we could say today that we will use the scientific knowledge of meteorology to do design, and to say that we could use like convection, conduction, evaporation, or pressure, like composition tools for doing architecture. So I want to show different projects based on that. So this is like this is a little the structure of the last book we made. I go just like that, and first I want to introduce radiation. And by showing this project, so it was in 2002. It's called Hormonorium. It was for the Swiss pavilion at the Venice Biennale. And this pavilion was, the work we made inside the pavilion was to challenge the design of the void, to say we will not really design the solid, we will more design the void. And today we have the knowledge, we know what is a void, what it is of what it is made. And it's made of chemical substances, it's made of physical qualities, made of electromagnetic qualities. And so we start to design this invisible parameter of the space. So the first things was about the light, because if we could say that the air, the space itself is in reality it's not empty, it's a material, and this material is made of electromagnetic wave, and so we start to understand what is the link, what is the materiality of these electromagnetic waves. And so we start to understand, we have worked with some scientific in Switzerland for that, and there is some biological cycle linked to day and night. So the dark blue is night and the light blue is day, and we see that there is some variation inside the blood of different hormones like melatonin, prolactin, or cortisol that change during day and night. And in reality, there is a publication in Science in 1980, and it showed that when it was showed when during the night you have a lot of melatonin, this hormone, inside the blood, and when you turn off or turn on the light, it was like we see here at 2 a.m. they turn on the light. We see that the level inside the blood of melatonin fall down, and if we turn off the light, it grow up. So it means that there is a link between the light and the physiological body, and it's linked to, it's based on the light touch the retina and give an information to the brain, and it blocks the secretion of melatonin. And what's happened, it's mean that during the day you don't have melatonin secretion, and because you have light, and during the night you have no light, and so you have melatonin secretion. And so and then there is a kind of psychological reaction to that. So it means when you have more melatonin, you feel more sleepy, and you start to sleep during the night. And when you have less melatonin, you feel more alert. And so it was the first. So we say, okay, we will design because I forget to say, when they turn on the light here, it was they start to have a small quantity of light, and then they arrive to 10,000 lux. It was 10,000 lux of light, and this quantity of light on the retina blocked the melatonin. So it was a kind of link between the power of the light, the intensity of the light, and at this intensity it blocked the melatonin. And so this is like to challenge the light, to challenge the space link with the design of the light intensity. And then there is another parameter. This is because the void, okay, it's made of electromagnetic waves, and it's made also of chemical substance. And we know before the 18th century, we think that there is only one element, like the air, or like nothing. And then we have discovered that the air was not empty. It was a matter with there is a pressure of the air, and then after that it was Blaise Pascal or Torricelli that discovered that there is some other people that discovered that the air is not made of one element, but it's made of oxygen and nitrogen, so there is different type of gases inside the air. And here this is some people that go in the mountain, and so at the sea level, so you have 21% of air. So it means this is, I don't know what is the altitude of Austin, but there is like 21% of oxygen inside the air. And when you go higher in the mountain, so the level of oxygen decrease. And when you go very high, like in the Everest, you have a lack of oxygen, and so you start to have some disease. And this disease is linked to erythropoietin. This is one hormone. One hormone that is, it's another hormone. There is the melatonin hormone, and the erythropoietin hormone is activated when there is less oxygen. So it's multiplied the red cell inside the blood to bring more quickly the oxygen to all the organ inside inside the body. And so the task of this pavilion was to challenge this the design of the space itself, like a material, and not like to say the solid is a wall and the empty is a space, but to say the space is also a solid, and so we will design it. And the idea to design it was to say we will build a kind of high mountain atmosphere. And the high mountain will, for doing that, so first we put a lot of light on the ground. So it was a little like the snow reverberation. When you are in the mountain with the snow, you receive the light on the eye, very bright light. And this light was 10,000 lux, so it blocked the melatonin by receiving on the eye, on the retina. So it was like the first design. And the second design was here by changing the composition of the air, and we add more nitrogen inside and less oxygen. So we recompose the quality of the air at 3,000 meter altitude, like in the mountain. And so when you enter, so it means we change the quality, the chemical quality of the air inside this space. And so the space was very abstract visually. So it was completely white because we want more light. We want 10,000 lux, so it's quite bright, very bright, to block the melatonin. And the light comes from the ground because we want to receive it directly to the eye, like on the snow. Because if it comes from the top, so you could be protected by the eye. But and everything was white to have a reverberation of the light. And then we changed the quality of the level of oxygen, and so it was like really like building the mountain climate, but not like a narrative of the mountain, but really like a physical construction, a climatic construction of the mountain. So you go inside, you open the door at the sea level in Venice, in Italy, and you jump, like jumping on the high mountain immediately by opening the door. And here, this is something that I'm interested in today, because we are more working on the quality of the material linked to climate. Like we start to work on words like effusivity or diffusivity or emissivity of material. And for example, here, of course, there is this bright, the choice of the white that reflect everything. And also, for example, the floor was made of plexiglass, because the plexiglass let also some ultraviolet going through. The glass blocked the ultraviolet, and here we want also some ultraviolet, a little like on the mountain, so the skin, there is a tanning of the skin by letting a little ultraviolet like on the mountain. So it was quite, in reality, it was really a strong experience, because it was completely white, and we don't see the edge of the wall, so it was like floating, and we don't. Some people walk like that because they don't know where is the wall, and so it was a very strong experience to be inside, and so really the idea was to design the space, to design the emptiness of the space. Now, also on the light, I want to show just a small project we made. This is a new project for Artemide. It's a company of lighting in Italy, and we are doing a new project for them, and they ask us to rethink about lighting, and this is quite a good example to show how we work. So we start to analyze, because the lighting today use LED, of course, because this is a daylight spectrum. So this is a sunlight. So we see that this is the ultraviolet part, this is a visible part, and then this is the infrared part. And we know that 50% of the energy of the sunlight come inside the visible, and 50% is inside the infrared. And this is the old, we see more with halogen spectrum. For example, this is like the incandescent lighting, like the old bubble with filament inside, or halogen type of lighting. And we see that when you have halogen, maybe like this one, yes, exactly. So you feel the heat, it's warm a lot. And in reality, there is something like 90% of the energy is only heat, and there is only 10% that is only light. So it means that if you pay €1 for 10%, so it means you pay $9 for nothing, just for heat, and $1 only for, so you pay $10 to have only $1 of light, and you lose $9 of heat. And this is a problem of this type of lighting. So you heat, I feel the heat very strongly. So it's why today everybody is changing. We don't want to use any more halogen or incandescent. We want to use LED. So before that, it was like fluorescent lighting. And fluorescent lighting is better because you see this is a visible range. So this is where we see. And this is infrared, so we don't need that for lighting. And fluorescent lighting, well, like the old fluorescent lighting, was okay because it was inside the visible, so there is no infrared, so everything was inside the visible. But in reality, the spectrum of the light, we will see, have some peak of wavelengths that are not linked to the human eyes. So it's why the old fluorescent lighting was creating some disease for people that was, if you are walking all the day in a supermarket or in an office only with this type of lighting, you could have a kind of some sickness linked to this type of lighting because this lighting is not linked to the human eyes because it emits different wavelengths in different and the LED technique is very efficient from an economical point of view because you have peak of it's made of semiconductor. It's like gallium, nitride, things like that, and this is there is different type of semiconductor. But each semiconductor produces one peak of light, so it's like one color. And so it was a Nobel Prize that discovered the last, before we know only the blue and it was, I don't remember, like the blue and the green, and we don't have the red. So now we have everything, so we could do white color with that. And but so it's good, but it means that with LED, it's a little like if you want to do white light. You have to do it a little like the Impressionist painting, like Claude Monet or Seurat, like a Pointillism painting. So it means it's made by dots, like a Van Gogh painting. So it's not the color is not made by white color, but it's made by addition of like pixel, addition of different peak of wavelengths. And so. So we start to say, okay, but if you, for example, if you use this gallium nitride semiconductor, you will emit in these wavelengths. But maybe, so it's like, okay, you pay $1 for one wavelength. But which one you have to choose? So we start to analyze the human eyes. And the human eyes in reality have cone and bâtonnet inside the eyes, and in reality the human eyes perceive the light. It's like that. This is a visible, and we have some peak of we have cone that perceive only some color, and then we have addition of color inside the brain. So it's a little. We have like 3 pixels that. So it's why some people that have a disease that one of these 3 is missing, so they don't see the red, for example, and so it means that this is a peak of the human eyes. So and this is a vision, and all together create the white perception. And then. And then we, and then we say, okay, but maybe if we want to do a light for the house, maybe we are not alone. There is not only the human eyes, there is also some hamster maybe in the house. And the hamster, in reality, you see only in green, light green or black green. And so you only see one color. And the peak is at 505 nanometer, and this is like the peak, the good light for the hamster. And the dog see in 2 color, like in blue and green and white. So it means both together. It should be also a kind of green world, and at 429 nanometer and 155 nanometer. And the bird see in 4 colors. So he see a world larger than us. You know, he see some because he see a little inside the ultraviolet, and this is the different. And then, of course, if you have green plant inside the house, also you know the chlorophyll photosynthesis phenomena is linked to. It's absorbed the blue and the red. It reflects the green. It's why the leaves are green, and it's take the energy coming from the blue and the red to transform the CO2 of the air inside carbon form, and this is a photosynthesis. So it's need this type of lighting, and then so it's why we say okay, if we need. If we have to pay $1 for one peak using different semiconductor, so we need to choose one semiconductor for LED, and then we start to see in the market all the products that are today, and this is all the LED peak we could find today depending on the different semiconductor. And we see that, okay, we are looking for the, this one is for the human eyes, for example, this one. And so we see that there is something quite similar with silicon carbide, gallium nitride LED. And so we start to do an addition of different semiconductor inside the light. And so for having the good light for the human eyes, the good light for the hamster, so it means, because if you emit here, for example, you will pay $1, but nobody will really see it. Or it means the human eyes, this is not the good wavelength for the human eyes, so the brain will become tired because you have to invent the color. When there is one color is missing, the brain invent the color. And then we propose, this was the original project, like to propose to buy like rods of rays of light for the human eyes or for the hamster, and then you combine all together, and of course all together recreate a kind of white light, and so here we have 4, because we use also for the melatonin. So we have like 4 colors for the human eyes and 2 for the birds, and also because it's also linked to the. This is a sunlight, and so we perceive more. There is, in the sunlight there is more blue, more than red. So this is the spectrum of the light. So it's why we add a little more blue and less red, for example, or less violet. And then all together, so we have each wavelength together, and so it converges together. And then we propose to have a light that you could turn off. Okay, if you are alone in the house, you turn only human lights, and if you have a dog, you turn on the dog light too. And if you are living and you have green plant, you turn off everything except the plant. And so you economize money, you reduce the energy consumption, and also you provide good lighting for the healthy lighting. And it was a design fair in Milan last year, and so we just do a kind of installation that show different cycle. So there is a human light cycle, the bird cycle. So you could enter and see the color of the different peak of the this one, for example, was a dog with the 2 colors, see by the dog. And this is a product, the lamp. So we have all the wavelengths that compose, and that come together, and so it's like all the different wavelengths recompose a kind of white light. So now I want to show another project. It's based on convection and based on the kind of thermal regulation. This is like in Switzerland, so this is according to a kind of more cold climate where you need to use a lot of heat during 9 months, or 9 months. You need to heat the building because it's too cold outside. 8 months, 9 months, and so there is some regulation made by the Swiss government, and this is like a strict regulation for public building, but for housing building it's like recommendation, and they say the corridor of the house or the stairs of the house should be warm at 15 degrees Celsius and not 22, because 22, okay, 20, 21 is a degree Celsius is like the good temperature. It's like when you have a car, sometimes you have 21 because it's like the 21 you feel not too cold and not too warm. So 21 is like in reality the human body is in between 20 and 28. This is like the range where you are comfortable. After that you feel too warm and you start to sweat and to have some thermolysis phenomena, and if it is too cold you have thermogenesis, so you shiver or something like that, so to reproduce heat. And but in between 20 and 28 this is like a comfort zone. And so, but after that, it depends of the activity of the body and the clothes you have. And this is some regulation in order to economize money and to reduce energy consumption. So it means in the corridor, for example, or in the stairs, you could warm the space only at 15 degrees Celsius because you move the body. So you do a little exercise, so you produce your own heat. And also you don't stay 2 hours in the stairs. You just move through the stairs and then it's finished. So it means if you warm it at 22 degrees Celsius, it will be too warm because 15 is okay because you don't have time to become cold because you stay only a few times inside the stairs and you do exercise a little. So 15 degrees Celsius is okay. And they say the bedroom could be at 16 degrees Celsius because you are inside the bed, so you are covered by the blanket, and so 16 is okay. And the kitchen could be at 18 degrees Celsius because you are cooking, moving a little, so it's okay. And the sofa, the living room is at 20 because you are motionless, and so if it is only 18 degrees Celsius, after maybe 5 minutes you become a little cold, so 20 is better. And in the bathroom you are naked and maybe you have some water on the skin, so if it is 18 or 20 you become cold, so it's better to have 22. So this means this is like if you understand that, it means if all the bedroom in Europe or in the more in Boston and all are warm at 16 degrees Celsius and not at 20 degrees Celsius, you economize 4 degrees Celsius. So it means at the end of the day you economize a lot of energy, and so you reduce the green gas effect and the global warming by so this have a real impact in reality by reducing of 4 degrees the temperature of the bedroom. But as an architect, if you analyze that, it means that you could no more have a Mies van der Rohe open plan or a Le Corbusier plan libre or like a loft, because you need to have door in between the bathroom and the bedroom, because if you let the door open between the bathroom and the bedroom. So it means if in one room it's 16 degrees Celsius and in the bathroom it's 22, after 5 minutes, you know, it's like hot water and cold water, so everything will be at 19 degrees Celsius, so it will be too cold in the bathroom, so you will turn more the radiator, and at the end it will be 22 also in the bedroom. So it means with that, with this new type of regulation, you could no more design modern plan. You need to come back to the 19th century old plan with door and room, and to close the door when you enter another. So it could be a problem if you are a modern architect and you want to design open plan. And but if you want to continue to design open plan with a continuity of space between the bathroom and the bedroom, you feel a little guilty because you know that you are participating to the global warming. So how to deal with that? So there is so it's why we start to understand that there is another physical law. It's Archimedes' law. You know, the hot air go up and the cold air go down. And this is something when you are in the room, if you, this is maybe not very for Texas, but more for Boston. But in Boston, during the winter, when there's a lot of day of winter, so it means in the room you want to have 20 degrees Celsius down where you are, but the 20 degrees Celsius, the hot air will move up to the ceiling, and then all the heat will be trapped under the ceiling, and so it becomes very warm. It's what's happened here. So it's become very warm under the ceiling, so it could be 30 degrees Celsius under the ceiling, and down to the feet, it's only 19, and you are too cold on the feet, so you turn on the radiator, but the hot air always go up, and so at the end it will be 35 there, and it will be 20 down, or it will be so. So it means this is like the typical curve of the natural law. And so from that, maybe we did different type of project on that also, but yeah, just show a very simple one. So is to say, okay, because we what's happened, it's in reality this is what's happened, and we say if you heat here, so the warm air will go under the ceiling, and so then according to the Swiss regulation we could say, okay, so here we could place a bathroom, and here we place bedroom at 16 degrees Celsius, and the living room is here, and the toilet is here. And so we use the natural condition of the meteorological way of the heat to move inside the air to place the object, and then we have like a contemporary open Mies van der Rohe plan, but without guilty, because you could have the bedroom at 16 degrees Celsius down, but the bathroom will be warm at 22 by just using the different layers of temperature that you will find inside the space. So yeah, so in this project is to use the physical law or the meteorological law to design and maybe there is some modification of the shape. Here, just this is a project of based on the ventilation. This is another aspect of sustainability and green building technique. This is a double flow air renewal ventilation. So because if you because we need to change the air because we produce vapor inside the when we have air inside the space, we take it and we add moisture inside when we breathe. And this is the first reason of ventilation. We need to change the air because we add too much. After 1 hour, we produce too much vapor inside the air, so we have to renew the air. And of course, also the CO2 and the oxygen and the smell. So we need to change the air. But and the system today, the system today is to say we change the air. For example, if it is very warm outside and you want air conditioning inside, so you take if there is depending on the number of people and the activity inside, you change the quantity of new air you need, and you take the air and it go inside, and then it go out, and before going out there is a heat exchanger, so it's like aluminum plate, and so the cold air that go out will cool the hot air that come in, so you could use by heat exchangers. So this is some machine that are used today in a lot of building in Europe for ventilation, in order to not, because if you just open the windows, you could add too much or too big quantity of new air, and so you have to cool it again, and you don't need to cool so much quantity of air. So yeah, the project is to say, because normally it's a small machine with duct, and so it's a machine on the basement, and then you have duct inside the house, but we could say finally all the building becomes a duct and becomes a ventilation system. And so it was the idea here to take the air, the new air, and here it's come in, and this space are storage, so it could be cold, and this is like a sports hall, so it could be at 15 degrees Celsius because you are doing sport activities, and then here it's become warmer, so it's become the shower, and then it go out. And before going out, this wall is in aluminium, and so there is a kind of heat exchanger. So all the building become a kind of big heat exchanger. So before going out, the air warm the incoming of air. So this is like the flow of air that come in and move back and go out, and here there is this wall that become like a heat exchanger. I am talking about ventilation, so this is exactly what's happened. So in the relative humidity is maybe 45% when it's here, and you take it and you lose a lot of heat inside the lungs, in a lot of moisture of water, and so it go out, and and you need to change that, because if not you create some trouble of mushroom or things like that, or it's become too humid, and so so the way to change the air is based on the activities. And for example, if you are sleeping, you produce only 40 grams of vapor during 1 hour. If you are like that, normal situation, you produce 150 grams during 1 hour. If you use a kitchen, you produce 500 grams in 20 minutes, or if you take a shower, you produce 800 grams in 20 minutes. So this is very important in the new system of ventilation. This is this double flow air renewal. So you have the new air, the heat exchanger. So it go in, and then it go out, and there is a heat exchanger here that cool the air if it is air conditioning, or warm if it is during the winter. But it's linked to you need to know where will be the input of the ventilation because you need to do it according to the quantity of vapor that there is inside the space. So it's why the new air always is introduced inside the most dry space because I said that when you are sleeping you produce 80 grams of a vapor. So the new air comes here and then it goes to the living room where you produce 150 and then it goes to the kitchen or bathroom or toilet where there is more moisture and then it go out. And you understand if you do the opposite, so it means if you take a shower, the moisture, the vapor of the shower will go in the room, in the living room. So you understand that it's not the good way. So it means that in this new system of green building, there is a kind of invisible wind that travels inside the building, and in reality we have to design this wind of ventilation, this movement of air that go inside. And normally it's designed not by the architect. The architect design like in an old-fashioned way, and then this is the engineer that put some duct that take somewhere and go somewhere else. So you have to move inside the wall to do these things because maybe this is not the good order. But in reality, if you analyze that, the new way of doing a house, for example. The way we design a house today is more like private and public. For example, we first enter the public space or the semi-public space, like the living room and kitchen, and then you go to the private space, more like the bed. So this is like a composition, or there is some more like a day and night composition. And here, if you look to that, it also changes the typology of the house because you have bedroom, and in between the bathroom and the bedroom you have a living room. So it means it's not exactly the same way of composing the room inside the house. There is because it's linked to the flow of the air, of the wind, of ventilation that will move inside the inside the space. So it's create a kind of new type of plan. So here we have proposed this apartment that is strictly based on that, on this diagram. So it means this is a fresh new air that arrive and move and go inside the house, and then it move inside the house and then it go out like that, and there is a heat and it come back, there is a heat exchanger, and then it go. And because when you look to that, in reality you could say the house is no more between private and public, but it's more between dry area and humid area. So it's like stretching between dry and humid. And so this is what we are doing here. It's a plan of humidity. So we say, okay, this is like the dry area of the house. It becomes like the desert, the Texas of the house. And this becomes like the jungle of the house, like the tropical climate with the more humid area of the house. And so because the air will travel, and then we place the program according to this gradation of humidity inside the house. So we have the bed in this area, and then we have the living room, and then the kitchen and the bathroom and the bathtub. So that take place inside a kind of humidity plan of the house. So this is different type. And then there is also something here, because the humid air is more light than the dry air. So there is also like movement of that, that move from the because it's you know, when you have ventilation, you have the output of the ventilation. It's always under the ceiling because the humid air is more light, so it's need to go up there. So yes, the target is like to use this element of ventilation or humidity like the starting point of the design, and to design with that. Then another project, it was a project for museum storage with different type of temperature and humidity and light intensity for the preservation, conservation of the artwork. And so we start to analyze, it was like a volume, and then we, according to the route of the sun path, we analyze where it's more warm and where it's more cold, linked to the south and the top, because the roof receives more sun heat, so it's always, you know, the south facade and the roof is always more warm, and the north and the lower area are always more cold. So this is like inside this volume, we start to analyze the volume, and then to place where, if we need something more warm, we will place it here, more cold here. And then we do the same with the humidity. And after that, we also try to do a kind of to deal with the sunlight, in order that for example, to use the wall, the composition of the wall, outside wall is made of different material, that because this one receives a lot of heat, so this one could reflect more, and this one receive less heat, so this one could absorb more the sunlight. So it's like to balance, you know, to absorb more heat coming from outside or less to reflect them here. So we see here on this image, we could see, so this is more on the south here, so we have more the reflection material, and here with this absorption material linked to the sun path outside. And this is a little like an apartment we made of two, based on also on the heat. The hot air go up and the cold air is down. So we have also the different program there. That so that the bath, the shower is under the ceiling, and the kitchen is down. And here the sofa for two people are a little lower than the sofa for one people, that go a little higher. And the humidity, this is a dry area, so we have the living room and there the sleeping room, and then we go in the most wet area where we find the kitchen and the shower. So it's a little like the old house that are based on the more climatic parameter. And here we could see a little like the sofa here, and the shower here, and the kitchen down. And here, of course, we have always some grid. This is in a lot of projects there is a grid, because the air should move everywhere freely without to be trapped by the. and another project on convection. So this is like the plan. So down we have the bedroom, and we go here. We have the kitchen and the living room and the bathroom, and here it's not it's the slab of the building that start to move and to reach some different level to go in. It go more high on the warm area and go down in the cold area. And the last project I want to present is a this is the project we are working on since 4 years now. It was an international competition in Taiwan for a park of 70 hectares, and with some different different program. It's like a new central park for a new district in Taichung, and we won the competition. And this is like the first. It was an old airport, and the park is the first public construction. And then there is this Su Fujimoto that won the tower of a kind of 300 meter high tower, and Sana that won the library. And so it will be like the three public building, the park and this. And then around there is this is urban design. So this was the original plan of Stan Allen from Brooklyn, the architect Stan Allen, that won the competition for the master plan. And this is like the park, and all this is like houses, university, office building, and around that. This is a Sana library. This is a Su Fujimoto tower. And this is our park. This is the first built area. And the project is so the idea of the project was to because it was a competition for a park, urban garden, urban park, and so we start to think why we need to do a park, what is the original idea of the park, and we come back to the first urban park in the city, and it was like a Central Park in New York from Olmsted, and or le Bois de Boulogne or Parc Monceau or Butte Chaumont in Paris from Alphand during the 19th century. And it was interesting to read the reason of this park. For Alphand, for example, in Paris, the idea was to why they want to create a garden in the city. The main idea was to create to bring coolness inside the city. So it was like written like that, and it's the reason why on the boulevard in Paris there is some trees. Before there is street without trees, but today there is trees. And the idea was the trees was a machine to cool the street by creating shadow. It was more for the horses during the 19th century, and it's quite interesting because personally I never know really that. I was thinking that it was more beautiful to have trees in the street, but I forget that it was made for shadow. And sometimes it's still strange because in Paris sometimes they are building street. In fact, there is a street near my house, and they add trees, but they place them on the wrong side because it's on the south side of the of the street, so it's already on the shadow of the building, so it should be on the other. So it means that also some people forget why we have trees inside the street, and for so there is really this idea for Alphon. You could read that in the memory of Alphon. It was for cooling. The Bois de Boulogne also, it was to offer to the Parisian people some area where they could cool during the summer. They could go in the park and feel freshness. And for Orl.ans, Central Park in New York was based on health. And he really, in the memory of Orl.ans, at the first page, he explained that the health of the New Yorker is better with Central Park because it's like a green lung, it cleans the air, it's absorbed the dust of the cities, and there is really this idea to depolluting the city with a garden, with a park. So this this idea of to come back to this kind of climatic mission of the park was quite important in Taiwan because it's a subtropical climate, so it's warm and humid. And during the winter, I think maybe it's like here, but it's like 20 degrees Celsius, so it's never very cold, and it's become very warm after in April already, and the humidity of the air could be quite high. And so we say, and we discuss also with some Taiwanese people, and someone told me, I asked her, what do you think about park in Taiwan? And she said, I don't like park, I prefer to go in shopping mall. I think park, it's too warm and there is mosquitoes, it's too humid, so I don't. And so this idea to bring back people to nature, to outdoor space, but to rethink about the comfort of the outdoor space. And so then we start to think that the park, the theme of the park will be to create a space where we could maybe cool and dry and depolluting the space. So it's like like three missions: to clean, to cool, and to dry. And so first for cooling, in reality, this is like the master plan. And for cooling, we try to analyze the site, and there is different factor for cooling. There is because if you feel cold, it's linked to air temperature, but the air temperature is always the same. So there is not really a change. It's linked to the direct sunlight, but on the site there is the same type of sun everywhere. And then it's linked to the wind speed, because if you blow on your skin, you feel cold because it's removed more quickly the heat coming from the skin. So you could experiment that like that. And so it was the only factor that we could work with that, because there is this is a wind map on Taichung, and there is there is always the dominant wind coming from the north. And so it means, and this wind, because we know that if the wind is higher than 32 degrees Celsius, it's become like air drier, so it doesn't cool. But if it is lower than 32 degrees Celsius, it could like be a fan, so it's cool. And also during the summer, of course, during the summer there is there is more warm air coming from the south, more south, but there is still some days. We check to analyze different years to see that still in July there is sometime day with north wind that come on the site. So we work with Transolar, with a German company, for doing some CFD model, some computer fluid dynamic model, to analyze in the future, when all the building will be built, or all the new district, what will be the flow of the wind on the site, and of the north wind. And so we saw that in red, it's more windy, and it's blue is less windy, and it's linked to the air that will move through the street and there. And from this model, we create a map of gradation, and we could say, okay, in this area, in the red area, it will be a little colder because there is more wind, so it will be a little more comfortable. So this parameter will be changed, and here it will be warmer. So we say, so we take this, we create this gradient map, and we say where it will be colder, we will reinforce that by placing what we call climatic devices. So it means it's trees that will cool, and also artificial man-made climatic devices here. And so it will be to reinforce the coldness. And then it's like form and function. We first design the climate, and then we design the form, and then we propose the function. Like it's no more like form follow function or function follow form, but it's more like form and function follow climate. And we place all the leisure activities inside this more colder, more comfortable area. And then we did the same with the water, with the humidity. So we analyze where it will be more dry and more humid according to the wind, and also with the reservoir of water, because we need to absorb all the water coming from the district on the park. And where it will be more dry, we propose to have trees that absorb humidity of the air, and also drying devices, and all the sport activity find place there, because when it's drier you could sweat more, because if it's too humid you could. It's why tropical, like humid and warm, is more uncomfortable than dry and warm, because when it's dry you could sweat a lot and you evaporate by sweating. You have evaporation on the skin, and so it's cool the body. But when the air is already very humid, you could no more sweat, so you become more uncomfortable because you could not lose heat of the body by sweating. So so it's why we propose to have in this more dry area all the sport activity where you could sweat more. And then the pollution, we analyze where there is a big road on the site that cross the site, and then far from the road, so we have less noise and less pollution coming from the car and from the street. And so here it will be cleaner and more polluted. And so we reinforce the clean area by adding trees that will absorb, catch the dust pollution, and devices also that are depolluting devices. And then the function, it's all the children activities that find place in this clean area. And then all together overlap, so it means these three maps are overlap together. And then some areas become warm, dry, and polluted, or some of them are cold, dry, and polluted, or some are cold, dry, and clean. And so it creates a variation of space. And maybe at noon during the summer it would be good to go in the cold, dry area, but maybe in winter at 6 p.m. it would be better to go in the warm, humid area, for example. So we let the freedom to everybody to choose where we want to go. And then we give some name to that. We call that the northern clear area, the eastern clear area, the middle dry area, and the southern clear area. So it's give name of this different type of lands that we create there. And we also link that with activities, so it's more for teenager or for student here, and more for businessman or like that. And then we have three main paths that connect all the clear area. So all the cool area, the cool area are linked with this kind of isobar path that connect all the cold area, so it becomes the cold pass. And the cold pass is the leisure pass, so it's a kind of smooth promenade like that. And then we have in the dry area, we have the sport pass, the dry pass that connects all the dry area. And it's more for sport, so it's more difficult to go. It's like going on the top of the hill and going down, so it's more for sport activities. And then the clean area connect all the clean area, and it's more for family, for wheelchair, for baby care. It's me?
Oh, that's you. Hold on a second.
Okay, I will see. Okay, okay.
The laptop.
Laptop?
Yeah. So maybe because it's
warming up again.
Okay.
yeah. Whether there's anything else you can do. No, it's on.
Yeah.
It's on. Yeah, you just have to restart. Yeah. So maybe.
I think I have 5-10 minutes just to. It's okay?
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. But maybe, will you take maybe 1 or 2 questions on the work so far while we wait for the projector?
Yeah.
If there are questions, and then maybe we'll finish up the project after the projector is turned back on. So.
In the first project, you made a statement, kind of related or paraphrasing, that you were recreating a mountain, but as opposed to creating a narrative of the mountain, it was more like the sort of physical constraints of the mountain. Could you talk more about, like, was that a goal of the project, or is that kind of post-rationalizing, looking at it after the project?
In reality, for us the most interesting thing was about the hormonal and the physical quality of the air, like what's happened with the physiological, with the melatonin, the hormone, and to change to design the quality of the air and to design the quality of the light. And then the narrative of the mountain came a little after, because when we just understand the lack of oxygen, if you change the oxygen, it's like going on the mountain. So it's at one moment we understand, okay, we need to choose what quantity of oxygen. So 3,000 meter altitude was okay. So it's why it become like a narrative of the mountain, but in reality it was not a narrative. It was like we produce a space, and this is what we could find on the mountain. But I think it was fine to have both, because if you talk only about hormone, it look a little strange, and if you talk about mountain, it's more people like more, you know. So. But after that, we did another exhibition in the museum in Switzerland, because when we work with scientific people because at the beginning we want to reduce the level of oxygen, and we work with someone at the University of Zürich, and we discuss about the change of the percent of oxygen. And it was when we discussed with him, with the professor in charge of that. He have in Zurich, he have a kind of big tank, like a round tank. You could go inside and change the pressure inside of removing oxygen. And he explained that we were talking about that, and he explained that in reality, if you go at 8,000 meter, you know, you start to have only it's like 8% of oxygen. If you go lower, it become very dangerous for the body. And he was talking about that the people that go on the Everest, without oxygen, they start to see the vision become they have like a tunnel, because there is less blood, less oxygen inside the eyes, so they start to see more black, and they have see a tunnel, and also they start to listening to chime sound. And it's why there is some people that become crazy on the mountain. They have some hallucination and things like that, because there is some disease that start in the brain, because there is a lack of oxygen, so it creates some drug effect, on morphine, adrenaline, things like that start. And it was interesting because when he said that, he said in reality when you die, if you are dead, when you die, in reality what's happened, it means you have oxygen because your earth is beating, and if your earth stop to beat, it means that in the brain you have first 21% of oxygen, but after one moment the level of oxygen will decrease. So when you die, it's like going in the mountain, because you have less and less and less. And when we say in French, we say you go to the sky when you die. You're going to, I don't know if in English we say, but so in reality it's really like that. Because it's like going in altitude. You go up and up and up, because you have less and less oxygen. It's like, and then after you have 0% of oxygen, in the brain, and so, and it's quite, and then this is exactly, there is some people that talk about near-death experience. Some people that die and come back, and they say that they meet God. They see a black tunnel and light, and then they discover God, or they have some missed experience. But in reality, it's a little like the description of near-death experience are the same than the climber that go on the mountain, because they have a lack of oxygen in the brain, and so the tunnel is exactly the same description of the mountain climber. Because there is less oxygen, so the vision becomes smaller, and the chime sound are exactly the same description of the climber and the people that die, that say that they're listening to music like that. So this is in this museum we have proposed to create a kind of near-death experience space. So it was like only 8% of oxygen, so it was like a cube, but nobody could really enter inside because you have a chance to die really. So it was not allowed to go inside, but it was like to have 8% of oxygen. So like, okay. So just this is like in the park. So this is under construction like 1 year ago. So this one, for example, is the cool pass. We have like 10,000 trees that will come on the site. So this is like this is a clean pass. Here we see that this is a dry pass here, and the cool pass. Here we see the So I will show only the cooling strategy. So this is like the CFD model, and then and then the place where we reinforce the cooling effect in the western Kulia, northern Kulia, middle Kulia. So this is a strategy of planting the trees and the devices. So it was like very dense on the center unless it become less dense. So we have a grid like that. So we have trees and sometimes we have climatic devices. And when we continue and we have another one that come here and here. So this is like this grid of trees and devices. And then the program, like a picnic table or leisure activities there. And the trees, the choice of the trees of the cool area are based on the climatic cooling effect of the species of the trees. So we choose trees with big leaf to create big shadow, or a lot of leaves to create heavy shadow, or white leaves or that could reflect the light. So there is a kind of choice for cooling trees. And then we propose to have cooling devices. So it was like different type of way of cooling, like you could find, because if you think of a pavilion inside a park, you could understand them also like cooling devices. So like a gazebo, or like is a cooling shadow, or like a grotto. Sometimes you have this. It's like a cooling mass. And here we propose to have like to use different strategy of cooling, like cooling by blowing air, like that, or cooling by evaporation. It's like fontaine in Sevilla or in Spain. You know, when because when you add water in the air, if it is not too much humid, the water evaporates. It's why when you go near a fontaine, you feel cold, because evaporation needs energy to change from liquid to gas in the physical change of phase, and it takes energy from the air, and so it takes temperature and it's cool. So it's why it's cold around the jet of water or around the fontaine. And then we have also some radiant cooling and some type of shadow here. So it's here it's cooling by radiation, or cooling by evaporation, or by convection. So it's like or radiation. So it's all the way of cooling. So this is like, it's explained a little that, like solar radiation, airspeed, temperature. So we work on these different factors for cooling. And and this is like the way of cooling by convection, by blowing air. It's based on the geothermal cooling. So we know this is like the test we did on site. So because the average, when you go, you know, for example, here it's 40 degrees Celsius here during in July at noon, at 10 at noon. And if you dig at 5 meters down here, you will find 25 degrees Celsius. So it means we take the air and it goes down to 5 meters down, and then it's cool underground by geothermal duct. And then when it go out, it's colder, so you could blow cold air. This is like all the strategy. Palladio already used that, you know, in some houses in Italy. And but we need just to blow air, so it's not. It doesn't use a lot of electricity. Like a fan is quite low in energy. but all the energy is made by PV panel. We have 7,000 square meter of PV panel here that produce all the electricity of the park. And so these devices of blowing air so this is we call this one anticyclone. So it was a model we made in order to with the engineer to calculate the amount of air, the speed of air, the quantity of air we need to have an effect on the surrounding area, like a cycle of 20 meters around the devices to feel something. And from that we calculate the speed of air we need inside the duct and the effect on different moments of the year, during the summer at noon or during the winter, when there is some wind outside or no wind. And this is the system. So we take the air, we have a filter, then a fan. We have a first heat exchanger with the city water because the water underground is already cold at 25 degrees Celsius. And so we have a heat exchanger here, and then it go down, it go on the duct, like geothermal duct, and it go to the device and it's blow air. This is like the system. And this is what we call the climatic plant rooms, and then it go from here, it go to different underground, to different device. So this is all the duct. This is like the plan. This is it take the air, it go underground, and it go to the device. And this is like the air. The underground duct and the and this is like a plant room. So this is the duct that come from the fan and go down. It go down here and then it go underground. And the anticyclone is so it's made of steel, galvanized steel, painted in white. So this is for durability. So galvanized steel is the most duration for duration of material. We paint in white in order to reflect the light, not to heat the duct. And we have thermal insulation inside and also on the top here, in order that the heat, sunlight will not warm the cold air that arrive. And this is like the 3D model. We also choose, we have like the structure is made of the pipe themselves. So we have a rounded corner because when you have ventilation duct, you need to have rounded corner in order not to create turbulences and noise inside. And we choose three points because if we have one, it fall, two, it fall, three, it stay. So it's like. And so this was the anticyclone under construction, yeah. And here, so we see the legs coming out, the duct coming out from the ground. Yeah, so we have the pipe that go out. And then the ground come back, yeah. And the duct are there. And this is like a final object. And another device is by evaporation. So this is some cloud. So this is only water evaporation. So it's quite like the fontaine. And so it's a mist of water. And we call this one the cirrus cloud. And so it's made of duct. So we calculate the quantity of water in order that to be sustainable with a quantity of water and so the mist. And okay, and I will finish by just to explain the this just we have a few buildings also inside. We have like the visitor center. That will be like a climatic change museum with that will contain 3 rooms. So the architecture itself is made of climate. So it's made. We have because we in reality a building have a different task. From the envelope of the building have different tasks. We have like the physical barrier, the water barrier, the thermal, the heat barrier, and the structure. And so we have each layers that compose the wall that are not all the way together, that start to dilate and create space in between. So for example, the corridor or the toilet, you don't need air conditioning, so it's only natural ventilation. So it's here in between the thermal insulation and the waterproof membrane. And then you go, this is the thermal insulation. And you go inside the thermal insulation, and then you go inside the structure, and everything is in between. And then we have 3 types of space: the coolium, the dryum, and the clearium. Coolium will be like the hormonarium, so it's reproduced in real time the temperature of the high mountain in Taiwan. The dryum will reproduce, it will be like a perpetual 21 of November. This is the driest day in Taiwan, so the most comfortable day that will repeat endless, like a endless day. And the clearium rebuilt the climate of Taichung before the Industrial Revolution, so without pollution, and with 2 degrees lower before the global warming. And so this is like the mountain of Taiwan. So so we have in real time the sensor that will give the information in Ali Mountain, and then it will be reproduced in real time. And then the dryam will be like so it will be like the ground will be like like a transparent earth. So you will see at noon the sun is here, but at midnight it will be down, like to see under the planet, and so it come back and it will repeat always the 21 of November. And the clearium will be lower temperature with clean air, and also a little like mist, because with global warming it's the last scientific research show that with the global warming the quantity of cloud inside the air could be lower, because the plant, the cell of the plant, if the temperature become higher, the cell start to close, and so there is less evapotranspiration coming from the trees, and so it means that the cover of cloud could be reduced with global warming. So, and here we see the construction. So, so this is like these different barriers. So we have the physical barrier, the waterproof membrane that turn, the thermal insulation membrane that turn, and the concrete here. So each layer are made and split sometime to create space in between. And then the intelligent system. So we have a grid of every 50 meters we have sensor. So the sensor, we will measure the temperature of the airspeed, the temperature of the air, and the light, and so we create an index. So it will be in real time. It show where it's colder and where it's warmer. And for the humidity of the air, and for the pollution also. And so we give all this information to the computer, and the energy was, the idea was to we have like this 7,000 square meter of PV panel. So it produces energy. So we keep a part for the lighting during the night, and we use some part during the day for the building. And then if there is a lot of light, if there is it's here, yeah. It's here. So if when there is more light, so it means we have more electricity, and we could turn on some devices according to the real quantity of it's here. So this means that there is no device on, and when we have more electricity production, so we could turn more device. And then we have a kind of smartphone application, so we could see in real time the temperature on the site. So when you arrive, you could see that here it will be colder or warmer, and so you could decide by there to go in this area because you want to find the coldest area of the park and to move some. And it gives information also if you want the cleanest, the less polluted area of particle matter, you could find it and go there. and then, yeah. Okay, thank you.